What is going on, everyone? And in this video, I'll be giving you my UFC 265 main and co-main event prediction for the upcoming event taking place August 7th, this Saturday. And I'm really looking forward to that main event, the co-main event, and some of the other fights on the card as well. I think it's going to be a great kind of card. So with that being said, let's go ahead and I'll show you guys my picks. Then we'll talk about the co-main and the main event of the evening. So in the co-main event of the evening, we have a pretty solid fight here. We have Jose Aldo taking on Pedro Munoz. And for this fight, Aldo's going to be coming in here, obviously being the one that has the experience, obviously being the one that's been around the game for a while, who's fought top-level competition time and time again. He's fought, best of the best kind of people. But he's coming in here against a guy who's going to be a killer. Munoz is just very aggressive. And I think in this fight, more than any fight, right, Munoz needs to go in there and just be aggressive from the beginning, pressure forward, and kind of fold Aldo, right? I think if he lets Aldo kind of set into his ways and be that technical striker, it's just not going to go well for Munoz. But I do think Munoz knows that, and I think if he goes in there, I mean, we saw him against Jimmy Rivera, we've seen him against Cody Garbrandt, we've seen him crack these guys, and he has a really good chin as well. He'll definitely get in there, and he has nasty leg kicks, and that's not to say Aldo doesn't have nasty leg kicks, but as of late, I really feel like Aldo hasn't really gone to the leg kicks, as he did earlier in his career. For Aldo, though, he's still very technical, very great striker, very good boxing. He mixes it up well, and like I said, he's more of a putting it together, all kinds of different ways of fighting. So he puts together the leg kicks, the body kicks, the punches, all these kind of things, versus kind of just going out there trying to land bombs, right? Whereas Munoz is obviously going to be the guy kind of being the aggressor. He's going to want to just run at you, slam in those leg kicks as hard as he can, and just swing for the fences. But at the same time, he has a very dangerous ground game, and I guess you could argue that both guys obviously have a ground game. But I think for Munoz, I don't really think the ground game is going to come into play here. I think more so Munoz is just going to try to break him. And I think that's the best way to fight Aldo, especially at this point in his career, is he needs to be like, he can't be getting off any of these really technical strikes. If he's getting his, pressured out of his mind, I think Aldo will fold here, or at least, obviously not get the best of the exchanges. So if Munoz wants to win, he's got to go forward. He's got to pressure early on. He's got to start swinging bombs, but he also has to mix in some other things, because I don't think swinging of, just wildly swinging is going to be the best thing. But, he could also fold Aldo, so it could be one of those fights. But I just feel like it's going to be hard to deal with Munoz in this fight. And I think if he goes forward and he's hungry and he's aggressive, it's going to be a lot for Aldo to kind of get into the way he fights. So I'm not really thinking that Aldo's going to be able to do that. If he does, I guess I wouldn't be too surprised. But I do think Munoz is going to get the victory here. I just think he's going to be the more dominant fighter. He's going to be the more aggressive fighter. He knows he needs to get in the face. He needs to break him, right? And, if he can get a finish, obviously that's going to be better. But I do think, I just feel like he's going to kind of tag him up enough to where maybe Aldo doesn't go out, because Aldo's a tough guy. But maybe Munoz kind of gets pretty dominant decision, or at least towards the end of the fight, maybe he's winning pretty good. So I'm going to go with Pedro Munoz on this one. I think he just kind of pressures forward, and he kind of just breaks down Aldo over a course of 3 rounds. So I'm going to take Munoz to defeat Jose Aldo. I'll take it to win by a decision. And then moving into the main event of the evening, we have Derek Lewis taking on Gane. And for Derek Lewis, we all know what we're getting from him. He's one of these guys where, it's a typical heavyweight. He's going to go out there and he's definitely going to try to break Gane. Not by a submission, not by anything like that. I mean, I guess he could, in theory, take him down, right? And then kind of just destroy him that way. But I really don't think we're going to see that. I think for Derek Lewis, if anything, it's gonna be, it's kind of like the Aldo, right? You don't want to let Aldo set into his technical fighting ways, where it's the same thing with Gane, right? You don't really want him to set into these distance controlling situations where he's kind of just always on the outside and you're kind of just getting picked apart from the outside and there's nothing really you can do. And he's always just, he always happens to just get out of the way of all the big shots. And I think if Lewis, Lewis obviously has to go after him early on. He can't be one of these guys where he just chases Gane around the whole time, right? And he's just swinging these wild strikes and nothing's really happening. I mean, we could get a fight like that where it's not the most entertaining fight we've ever seen. I mean, I would hope not, just because I think if Gane wins, he needs to do it pretty impressively, especially against a guy like this that's a little bit more one-dimensional. For Lewis, at least, he can't be going out there and just, kind of jabbing him up for 5 rounds and everyone's booing. And it's kind of like one of those fights where you're like, I feel like you could have done more, but you decided to just point fight. And that's okay, I guess, but it's just not going to get anyone behind him. So I think for Gane, he needs to go out there and really destroy Derek Lewis if he really wants to gain over the fans. That being said, though, he could be put to sleep at any moment in this fight. Lewis is one of these guys where, I mean, we saw him against Dos Santos. He kind of got kicked in the stomach, but then it was kind of he was being a little bit, I guess he was actually hurt, but then at the same time, he was trolling a little bit, and then he obviously tried to get him, but then Dos Santos kind of lit him up, and I could see something similar happening here. I mean, you got to look at Gane and just think that he's going to have the more variety of striking, right? Obviously, he's going to go for kicks, and I think you even heard Lewis talk about, he's going to try to kick me and all this kind of stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if Gane even tries to get into some sort of grappling exchange, maybe, and tries to take him down, maybe mount him, get a submission, or do something like that. Obviously, we saw Daniel Cormier be able to do that. But yeah, you don't want to go out here and just start swinging wildly with Derek Lewis. Gane is powerful, though. Gane definitely has big strikes. It's not like he can't knock him out as well. And he's obviously going to be a little bit more of a faster fighter. I believe this fight's obviously not in a smaller octagon, so I think that's going to favor Gane. If this was in the smaller octagon, I mean, it's obviously going to favor Lewis if it was a smaller octagon. But we saw Curtis Blades in that fight, and you just see how, if you watch the finish, you just see how, well, at least from watching it was so predictable. And, Lewis read him like a book, the way he was just ducking blindly in for a takedown, and he just hit him with the uppercut. I don't think Gane's going to be that exposed. I really just don't think Gane's going to be making those kind of mistakes here. I think he obviously knows, this guy can literally just put me to sleep. But then at the same time, I think if Lewis, isn't careful, he might get caught with something as well. So I think this is a lot closer than just like Gane going out there and point fighting with him. I think Gane could possibly knock him out. I think Gane could submit him. I think Lewis, though, only has that opportunity to get that KO. And I think it needs to happen early on, because I just don't see it happening later into the fight. I just think it later into the fight, even if he's still dangerous, I just think he's going to be getting hit with all these different strikes, and I just think it's not going to be good. But it's a heavyweight fight, man, so it's literally Gane could be the better fighter, right? But it really doesn't matter, because he's fighting a guy who will literally take your head off. But that just goes to show, like, the heavyweight division is, you could be a really great fighter, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we might see that with John Jones down the line, right? John Jones is a really great fighter, but, he fights a guy and he gets tagged once. He might get wobbled and then finish. It doesn't really matter, because at the heavyweight division, it's just a different story. But I do think Gane, obviously, I think he has to play a little bit safe early on. But he needs to get in there too. He has to fire back. He has to hurt. We've seen it happen before. You saw Dos Santos be able to hurt Lewis, and I think Gane can kind of do a similar thing. Like I said, he needs to hurt Lewis early on and kind of gain that respect, because if Lewis just thinks, hey man, this guy doesn't really have anything for me, I'm just going to blitz in on him, I'm going to take him out real quick, or at least I'm going to keep trying to, because he's not really giving me anything to worry about, that's going to be concerning. And I think Gane could definitely lose this fight if he doesn't show something to Lewis early on that's like, hey man, you're not just about to go out here and knock me out. At least not in the first round, right? So if Gane, whether that's with distance management, whether that's with landing, powerful kicks to the body or something like that, or maybe even possibly taking him down very quickly and kind of just working him. It could be a variety of things. Now, for this fight, I just feel like if Gane wins, it's not going to be by KO, TKO. Maybe it could be, I guess, later in the fight, but I just feel like he's not that style unless we see a completely different style. He's not that kind of guy who's going out there like within the first, minute or two just trying to take off, anyone's head necessarily. So I think I'm going to go with Ciryl Gane here, obviously, but I do think I'm going to take him by submission just because I'm very interested in seeing if he tries to work anything against the fence, if he does try to go for the takedown, or if he ends up in some sort of grappling situation, and then whether or not he's able to dominate that. And I think maybe he does look for a submission because, like I said, Lewis, he's a tough guy, man. He's a very tough guy. You really have to hurt him. And maybe Gane's like, I'm going to try to grapple with him. Let's see what he can do. Or maybe not. Maybe he just tries to go out there and swing with him and see what happens. That's probably not going to go well. But, we also don't know how well, Gane can take some of these shots, right? Because Lewis probably is going to tag him, man. I just don't know if it's going to be clean or, whatever it may be. But and this could be one of those fights where Lewis goes out there and knocks him out. And everyone's like, okay, well, I guess so, right? It's, what can you say? He's not necessarily the better fighter, but he just knocked him out. So I think I'm going to go Ciryl Gane here. I'm going to take him to win in round number 2 just because I think that first round, Gane's going to want to, obviously, like I said, test him a little bit, show him some things, but I don't think he's going to go out there and be like the most aggressive thing we've ever seen ever and try to knock out Lewis within that first round. But I do think that second round, maybe he'll try to work something different. And I'm only saying submission just because I just feel like it's so predictable to just say like, oh, he's going to knock him out, man. It's like, okay, yes, he can knock him out. But I'm interested in seeing more to the game, right? Especially in a fight where why try to just knock him out when like Lewis is going to try to knock you out? And that's like the last place you really want to be, is just exchanging these massive shots with a guy who literally puts people into another dimension. So I'll be interested in seeing if Gane can work some grappling here. So with that being said, I'm going to go Ciryl Gane on this one. Like everyone knows, I think if you're betting, why not just go with Lewis, right? I mean, it's common sense. Like, there's no value on Gane. Maybe if you think he'll also get a submission, there's value. But obviously the value's on Lewis because it's like he's going to go out there and literally do what we all think he's going to do. He's not going to go out there and try to go for the submission or, get a takedown or something like that. I just really don't see that. So with that being said, I'm going to go Ciryl Gane. I'll take him to defeat Derek Lewis by round 2 submission. And that'll do it, guys, for my UFC main and co-main event prediction. I think this card is going to be pretty solid. Obviously, you have Michael Chiesa taking on Vicente Luque, Tisha Torres taking on Angela Hill, Song Yadong taking on Casey Kenny. And for this, it's just going to be a great card. We go from one of these cards last week where I absolutely got destroyed 1-7. Like, it's horrible. 6 fights fell off the card, and like no one knows who any of some of these fighters are just coming out of nowhere, right? And it's one of those cards where it just kind of feels like it was thrown together within a week because of everyone getting taken off of it. But like I said, with that being said, those are my predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment down below. Tell me who you think is going to win. Hit the like button if you want to. Subscribe if you want to. And I'll see you guys in the next video.